All right, I should be just about ready to get things started. Got my water, got my G-subs. Lotion up my hands a little bit. All right. Hello, everybody. It is I, Visceral Serenity, VHDH Development, or just Steven. Anything you prefer. I am back again for another stream where I'm going to be going over various websites. Previously, I covered the website for the video game Monster Hunter Wilds, and I actually did 2 streams on that website. I had a couple of things to say about it. Today, there's another game I'm interested in looking at. That being Assassin's Creed Shadows, which is coming out pretty soon. So I figured I could give their website a little bit of a look. In addition, I purchased some new hardware. The MacBook that was present in my previous stream is no longer with me. I chose to trade that in so that I could buy the new MacBook Air with an M4 processor. Previously, my 8-year-old Intel MacBook was what I was using as a low-powered computer, essentially, to test how a low-powered computer would behave on websites. The M4 MacBook Air is awesome in terms of being a powerful computer. I actually do my video editing on that thing now, and it like renders videos at like 300 frames a second. So that's obviously no longer a low-powered computer. Alongside it, I purchased a Chromebook from Asus that was put out there in the world only about a year ago. So it's a modern low-end device, and that's going to be my new standard for testing like a low-end laptop style computer. I mean, in addition to testing smartphones and tablets and whatnot. And for that matter, I might as well test out. I got my Kindle Fire. I think I got my Samsung smartphone here too. I might be doing a bit of testing on those as well, which are both low-end Android devices. This is an A24, which is modern, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's a perfectly functional, usable phone, but it is on the lower end of Samsung's spectrum. It's far from being one of their S-series phones. And I like testing on on lower end hardware, because that's what people use. And websites should be built for what people use and not just the most powerful, beefy stuff that's out there. So with that said, I am going to turn on my chroma filter, because I am not actually on vacation at the beach. Although I do live near a beach that's about as beautiful as this, so I probably could use that as a backdrop if I wanted to. But chroma key, and I'm going to switch over to my Elgato output, which is currently hooked up to the aforementioned Chromebook, which you can see here. So you can see me typing on it. I currently have the Monster Hunter Wilds website enabled. I'm not going to be spending a whole lot longer talking about this, but one of the purposes of this stream for myself is to get used to using a Chromebook and what its capabilities are, how powerful or not powerful it really is. I paid about $140 for this thing new. So let's see, was that the correct command? I'm still getting used to exactly how this keyboard works. It's slightly different from Windows and Mac. So what I wanted to do is just hard refresh and empty the cache on this site and just record what happens as I use it. and maybe contrast that to my 8-year-old Mac. Because as cheap as this is, 8 years of computer technology have passed since that Intel Mac. And I think this website is actually performing better on the cheap modern Chromebook than it was on the expensive 8-year-old Mac that I had. I've also been playing with the screen reader and have noticed that there are some differences in how the Chromebook screen reader works in comparison to Mac OS VoiceOver. On Chromebooks, it's called Chromevox or Chrome VOX. I assume it's pronounced Chromevox. So at least for this stream, that's how I'm going to refer to it as. And it's not better or worse; it's just different. If anything, it's a little bit simpler in some ways, which I think is good. One thing I did notice is it does read out these in the same way. Because one thing I had noticed was the way that these titles were, are the way that these titles are rendering, um, is literally to render the title string twice, and screen readers will thus read it twice. macOS VoiceOver does that, and Chromevox does that as well. I already spoke about that and edited down a bespoke video specifically about that topic, so I won't go into more detail. But I have been able to confirm that a second screen reader, Chromevox, does the exact same thing. And the fix in this situation would be the exact same thing as well. But with all of that said, Monster Hunter Wilds is not the website I intend on going over today. Instead, I am interested in the Assassin's Creed Shadow website, which there's actually two of them, or it's the same site but two separate areas of the site. Where there's one that's an informational page about the site, and which is going to be loading in here. And already there are things about this site that I like far more than the Monster Hunter site, at least for my own personal sensibilities and how I like to consume website content. In addition, I also want to cover the store page. This game is not out yet, so right now it's still just a pre-order. But I am interested in just kind of exploring how this was put out and built out. Time allowing, I am interested in exploring more of the Ubisoft site as well, because as you may be able to tell, Assassin's Creed Shadows is not the only thing on this. Like, they also have a bespoke page for the VR Assassin's Creed game and a lot of the other Assassin's Creed games as well. And there's lots of other pages on this site too. So I may end up spending more than one stream just kind of observing this website, seeing how it is that it's put together, and any thoughts that I have on it. But for today specifically, I intend on on talking about the Assassin's Creed Shadow landing page. And I might share some contrasting thoughts on it compared to the Monster Hunter Wild page. So I guess first, actually, let me load this up on my what device do I want to use today? Actually, I'm gonna. Do I have my iPhone SE within reaching distance? I actually kind of want to load the site up on that. I don't know if I do. I may have put that somewhere else. Okay, I'll do the iPhone SE later. For right now, what I'm gonna do is load this up on my real Android smartphone. I'm gonna make sure I get the site loaded on here first, and then start streaming it so I don't accidentally, share data I don't want to. All right, I'm going to hook this up and I am going to open the program that I use on my streaming computer so that I can stream this. And that should pop up here soon, hopefully. There it is. All right. And as usual, I do not tend to rely heavily on any kind of emulated hardware on this stream. I use real hardware. I am using an actual real phone. This is a video output of said real actual phone. I might crop it down slightly just to maximize space. But yeah, so it looks like this opened up with the cookie notice. I am going to choose to accept all of the cookies because I'm lazy. At least I think this is the correct site. Let me just be 100%. Whoa, not totally sure what that was about. Let me refresh that page. Hmm. Okay, it looks like I'm on a slightly different page here. Okay, I don't want to give anybody epilepsy, so I'm probably going to avoid landscape phone view for right now without any further warnings. I apologize for those of you who may have issues with flashing. Again, this is real hardware. So on one hand, I suppose it's relevant that I caught that this happens on a real modern Android phone. Um, I also seem to be having some trouble accessing. Okay, so I think my mistake is I assumed the click target would have included the arrow, the like down facing arrow that's right next to games. That is not the case. If you click the arrow that actually closes the menu, you have to physically click on games. Minor UX issue. I would include. I absolutely do include the arrows in click targets. If not have the arrow be a separate click target in some cases, depending if the top level element is a clickable link. Um, it, in this situation, it's not, but nonetheless, I would have included that as a click target. This, however, is the web page that I want to be on. So I guess I'm gonna just contrast what I'm seeing on desktop and seeing on mobile and share if I have any immediate thoughts just in terms of anything I might have thoughts on. Let me play around with this slider a little bit. I am interested. What happens if I click on the watch trailer button? All right, I'm gonna dox myself a little bit and just put my birthday out there. I don't care. I already share my real name. You guys get to know I'm old. Okay, so that opens up a pop-up with a YouTube video. That is good to know. Um, I'm gonna close that. Is there some kind of auto scrolling going on? Because like I'm trying to position this in like a specific way, and it seems to like you see what I mean there? Like I'm like super slowly scrolling, and then it like snaps to a certain point. I'm not totally sure what's going on there. Um, all right. potential flashing trigger warning. I want to see what happens if I'm in phone landscape view. If there's any flashing, I'm going to hide this view as quickly as I can, but I am curious just. Oh, okay. And also another thing, um, how these are all the same size, but there's a lot of white space. I have come across this issue before. There is a way to, well, I suppose it depends on opinion if you would want to. There is a way to fix this issue um with display flex. Um but then there is the argument to be made that maybe it is better to have the white space just be there to accommodate for the largest ones. I think the easiest fix would just be to limit the output of the amount of characters that could happen in these descriptions so that they could only be so tall. And then you wouldn't have a screen's worth of white space. There's various technical solutions and opinionated approaches that could be taken to this. And this may have just been where they landed. So it's not an issue as much as just something I've noticed. But the other thing I noticed is that the snapping to a certain view or like to a certain position is something that is happening here too, which I don't particularly like because I feel like they're forcing an opinion on me. They might think that this is exactly where this slider should be for me, but that might not necessarily be what I think. And I am curious how that's going to scale across devices too. And in my opinion, it didn't work as well. Right, because like I want like scrolling to be completely free form and up to me. And I'm scrolling down slowly, scrolling down slowly. At some point, it's going to snap to a position, isn't it? Huh. Okay, maybe that's only a portrait thing. Landscape might be wide enough that whatever functionality that is doesn't trigger here. And then, of course, I trust that nothing quite like that is going to happen on desktop when I get to that part. Hold on. Is that just because of the trailer thing? I'm gonna click off. Oh, you want to know what I think is happening? I don't think there's any kind of scroll jacking going on. I think that it's a shift in the website because of this top Ubisoft bar, the like top black bar that goes away when I scroll down. From a usability perspective, in my opinion, that is slightly annoying. I guess I would say, especially because of how easy it is to come back. Like you scroll up even a single pixel, which on a touchpad as fickle as the one that's on this computer is not hard to do. So it kind of has the effect of coming back when I maybe didn't want it to. I would maybe adjust it slightly. If I built the site instead of 1 pixel up to make it come back, maybe make it come back after you scroll up like 5 pixels, and that might account for cheaper touchpads such as this one. Hmm. I don't know. That does feel a little bit like scroll jacking in a way. Like it wants to snap to a section. Like if I'm here and I scroll slightly below, it like automatically scrolls up a bit to be sure that I'm on a section. And that automatically scrolling up a bit brings up the black Ubisoft bar, which then thus shifts other things. And that might explain why there's a bit of space here from the previous section of where it chose to auto scroll me. I see what they're trying to do here, and I see what the theoretical benefits are. I feel like in the vast majority of cases, just letting scrolling be what it is, completely uninterrupted, is the best for accessibility. And well, maybe not even accessibility, but just general usability. I feel like there's the mindset of wanting to curate a specific experience, but then there's also the mindset where you don't necessarily know exactly what experience the end user wants or expects. I don't know, that might fall into opinion. I'm of the opinion that generally scroll jacking or auto scrolling to a specific section by detecting a certain scroll trigger point is not great because it will subvert expectations of what users will expect to happen. I certainly didn't expect this website to work in a way like that. And is it not every section that does that? Hmm. I don't know. I might be wrong about the concept of scroll jacking being on this site. It especially because I'm using a new computer I've never used before. It could just be the cheaper touchpad that's bringing the Ubisoft Black top menu up faster, which does shift the content. Which, at the very least, my suggestion would simply be to make it more than 1 pixel up before that happens. I'm going to be interested to test this site later on my MacBook Air that has like the best trackpad ever made to see if the issues are similar. So I guess I'm going to put a note on a lot of these thoughts and look into that a little bit deeper. But overall, my first impressions of this site is I do like it more. I like it substantially more than the Monster Hunter site because there's less going on. I'm the kind of person where if there's a ton of moving stuff everywhere all the time, like in the case of the Monster Hunter site, as you saw earlier in this stream, perhaps, it starts with a full screen auto playing video with a ton of stuff going on. And for me, it's overloading. It overloads my mental capacity to take in the website's content to an extent that it actually distracts from the content and call to action. That is not the case on this website. This website has more subtlety to it. It does have an auto-playing video, which I'm going to take a look at very soon because I want to be sure that it's optimized well. But the auto-playing video is small, and it's not the center focus. If anything, the center focus is this person right here, who I imagine might be the assassin or one of the main characters of the game of the game. So, and it's a static, non-moving image. So that's essentially the first thing I look at. And there's a few call to actions at the top where I can look at the future DLC, or I can pre-order the game. And to me, that's very clear. And then another call to action to pre-order now, with a very, very nice button animation. I do like when buttons are animated nicely. Then yeah, there's the latest news slideshow. I wonder what happens. Is this a pop-up, or is this going to go straight to a video? I'm guessing it's going to be the pop-up, but I'm going to dox my age again. I am 30 years old. To be fair, I literally say that in my Twitch description, so I guess I've never particularly tried to hide that, but in case anybody wants to celebrate my 31st birthday whenever that happens, feel free. And it is a pop-up. I'm going to close that immediately because I don't want to deal with copyright stuff. As with all pop-ups, I am going to test this with a screen reader just because pop-ups and screen readers are difficult and far from being impossible, oftentimes done very well, sometimes not done super well. That'll be a segment for a little bit later. But yeah, I like the fact that it's unobtrusive. I feel like if this site were built under Capcom's mindset, this would be an auto-playing video, whereas what this appears to actually be is a slideshow of images, which I think is substantially better because it's less distracting. There's less movement. I actually didn't even notice this was a slideshow of shifting images until almost 30 minutes into the stream. It was so subtle, but it communicates to me the fact that this game perhaps has a system of changing environments and like daytime, nighttime, seasons. And that communicates a lot more to me personally than a video would. Because this is something my brain is capable of paying attention to at the same time as not distracting from the content on the side. Whereas a video would just completely blow up my brain if it was a video and text. So right off the bat, I appreciate the Ubisoft approach of building game landing pages versus the Capcom approach. I think the less obtrusive, but still very informative Ubisoft approach is better. Certainly better for me. Aside from the slight scrolling jankiness, I also feel like the site is performing a little bit better. I have not run metrics on that, so I can't say for sure, but that's just, this site feels nicer to me to scroll through and read. Like I feel a little bit more comfortable staying on this website. This website doesn't feel as desperate to sell me on the game now as the Monster Hunter site was. Like, it's like, this website is like, take your time, you're comfortable here, read the information, we're not going to overload you, it's fine. And I really appreciate that. I'm going to give a big 2 thumbs up from my personal perspective, that I think the conceptual design, UI and UX of this site is extremely good. I also like the animation on this button too. Do I detect a slight glowing effect as well? That's very pretty. Yep, then some information on what you get if you were to purchase the more expensive editions, the collector's edition. As well as a guide, which for some games I appreciate, especially when it comes to physical media releases. As a lifelong gamer, I like when games have physical media first. A game fully on the disc, a game being released on a disc, and having fun stuff on the side is something I personally do enjoy. And I like when companies go out of their way to offer that kind of thing. So overall impressions, I think this site is positive. I have positive impressions of this site. Some slight scrolling jankiness, at least insofar as I'm experiencing it on this particular Chromebook computer. Other than that, I actually like this site a lot so far. I'm gonna move this. I'm gonna actually temporarily disable the Android output, and I want to take a look at oh, hello there, hi. And I want to take a look at the console, hard refresh, network tab, see what's loading in, and see how big this web page really is. Sorry, Ubisoft servers, for hard reloading so many times, but I assume you guys can handle it. Yes, and in terms of performance, I am going to remind that I am on a very not very powerful computer. So for the time being, I'm going to judge all performance, anything that might come up, on the fact that I am streaming a $130 computer brand new. So that being said, I think this website is working just fine on this computer. Oh, hi, Proudfishy. In terms of what I'm up to, on this stream, I mostly just go over various websites, primarily gaming websites, and just kind of share my thoughts on them. I've been a web developer for more than 8 years, and I just kind of have fun looking at various websites, seeing how they're built, sharing my thoughts on them. If I come across an issue, seeing if there's an easy or quick fix to it. Generally, when my streams are finished, I then put them into a video editor and make a few like smaller bespoke videos on specific topics that I share around as well. Everything is purely for the sake of fun and education, um, and things of that nature. In terms of what's loading in, I like that the largest size thing is smaller than a megabyte. That is a very good sign, and that seems to include a video, that is less than a megabyte. I am curious, is it this video? Did they compress the looping video down to a megabyte and do their due diligence? Um, in any case, that is the biggest video that is on this web page by default. And I really appreciate that, because in contrast to the previous website I looked at, which was Capcom's website for Monster Hunter Wilds, that website loads in with a full screen auto playing video that's only 15 seconds long and weighs in at 8 megabytes. Whereas at least this, given that this is the largest video on the web page as it loads in up front anyway, is less than a megabyte. I think if one is to do an auto playing video on a site, that is the correct approach. I am still of the opinion that if there is an auto playing or auto moving anything on a website, that there should be a reduce motion button. I bring up Nintendo websites a lot, but I'm gonna pull up. Actually, I visit this website or a Nintendo website so much it actually links to the official Nintendo one. But the one I like showing off a little bit more is the official Mario Nintendo website. Like how there's all of that moving stuff right there, but they have a reduce motion button, and if I refresh the page, it stops that from happening. I am fairly strongly of the opinion that if there's a website that has an auto playing anything, a button like this is a very, very kind thing to do for your user base. In my case, I am sensitive to mental overload to an extent. And on the Monster Hunter Wilds website, which I'll revisit again just for example's sake, this is the way that this website loads in. To me, this is too much, for me personally. And even as you scroll down, it might take a second to load, but the video sticks with the site and is always there, and there's no way to stop it, and it takes up everything. To me personally, that was distracting and overwhelming to a point where it took away from the website content and its call to action. And one of my solutions was very similar. Simply have a stop motion button. Also, this video is 8 megabytes big. It shouldn't be. I'm also of the opinion that website assets should not be as large as 8 megabytes. In Ubisoft defense, their video is not 8 megabytes. It is definitively smaller than 1 megabyte, which I think is fine. I think this is the vastly better approach to showing off essentially the exact same content, where it's much smaller. And to me, this is just fine. This is not enough to distract me from the website. It is an improvement from what Monster Hunter Wilds and Capcom was doing. What I would do to go even further is adopt Nintendo's approach of having a reduce motion button, so that this video wouldn't even be auto-playing in some situations. Most devices and browsers have settings to enable that, and those savvy enough to deal with those settings in their browsers could do so. I tend to code under the assumption that the vast majority of users are not going to enter into the deep depths of their browser settings on every browser they use, on every device they own, and that these things should also be accounted for on the website itself. So I think this is good, the way that this is implemented. I understand why they want there to be an auto-playing video. Obviously, so that you get an impression from the game and what the game looks like. The approach that they took here is superior to what Capcom did with Monster Hunter Wilds. I would appreciate a reduce motion button anyway. I'm probably somewhere around here, maybe even somewhere like around here, towards the top of the hero is where I would likely add that. But insofar as what has been implemented, I think everything has been implemented very well. As I mentioned earlier in the stream, I appreciate the Ubisoft approach above the Capcom approach to web design and web development so far. Now, I am curious, what happens when I click on this? Yep. Okay, so it seems like that's how it is across the board. It enters a pop-up player. And again, I'm not going to actually play a video because I don't want to risk any copyright stuff. I know Ubisoft is a big company. I don't want to get on their bad side in any way. So I do appreciate the game is Steam Deck compatible. As someone that games on my Steam Deck a lot more than my actual Windows PC right now, I actually really appreciate that. If this game turns out to be good, that might be the device of choice for myself. So yeah, some scrolling jankiness. I'm not completely sure why that's happening. Also, just from a text perspective, I would increase the spacing between Ubisoft Montpellier, for instance, or Ubisoft Philippines, just by a little bit. This could be an intentional design decision because it does communicate that there is separation between the different links. I personally think this is still a little bit too close. Some very, very tiny and also heavily opinionated nitpick. I do appreciate that they do have all of these links, and when you hover over one, it highlights the one that you're on. That's a very good touch. I really like this footer. Excellent footer. On the note of the footer, I am going to bring back my Android phone and take a look at the footer there as well. Okay, it looks like the footer might be pared down a little bit. I am getting a little bit of that scrolling jankiness because I am attempting to scroll down all the way to the bottom, like where that set cookies button or that set cookies link is. But that black top bar still wants to come up. So essentially, at least on this phone, that link is not accessible for like regularly tapping it. Um, I can't say off the top of my head what the solution would be because I don't know why that's happening. Um, my suspicion is that the black bar comes up too soon. As far as I can tell, literally from 1 pixel of scrolling up. I think an easy solution could be to play around with that number to make it more like 5 pixels or 10 pixels of scrolling up. Because yeah, as it stands, I cannot access the bottom of the footer on my phone. I do also wonder if they powered down the footer a little bit too much. Because when it comes to mobile design, I'm generally of the viewpoint that the content should be the same on both. Um, I consider removing content from a mobile view to be a compromise. In some cases, this can be fine and unobtrusive, but there's a lot of links represented in this footer menu on desktop that, as far as I can tell, are simply not there on desktop. Like, um, is the platforms menu available on desktop at all? Because it looks like they've carried over the side menu, like this one that has the lighter gray background that starts with the Ubisoft logo. Oh wait, I am incorrect. I am absolutely 100% incorrect. It does appear that they do include this part. It just stacks in the opposite way from what I thought it would, which is not a problem. So all of the social links are there. Um, I might opt to make those click targets a little bit better. You ideally want your click target to be at least 24 pixels, and from looking at it, I don't think that these social icons are that large. Um, I would probably make them a little bit bigger and just have 2 rows of them going on, or uh, columns or whatever. Basically, I would have them stack and have them be a little bit bigger. A very small nitpick, but I would imagine some people would have issues. I certainly do. Being someone on the side of having larger hands. Um, at the very least, I would space them apart a little bit more on mobile. From that point, the darker footer menu is right here. Um, with every single link represented. And you have the rating that's being covered up by myself and my capture of my laptop. And then it has the Ubisoft menu here to the left. I probably would have assumed the Ubisoft menu would have stacked just because I'm used to things like stacking like that. In this case, they stacked like this, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. So my end conclusion is the footer menu is very good. I would make the social icons, the tap targets for the social icons larger on phones. Huh. And now I'm able to access the bottom of the mobile menu. So it seems like if I like, hmm, it seems like sometimes I can access that, or and sometimes I can't. Um, I want to look into that a little bit more, just from a performance perspective. I am gonna hide this particular thing, and I'm gonna connect up my Kindle Fire tablet to see if that's happening there. I would load up my iPhone SE. I don't actually have that on hand. I'm pretty sure I left that in the other room. All right, close a few of these sites. Um, and I guess this would be an opportunity to show what the site looks like on a tablet as well. So here I've got my or is it 8 inch? I think this might be an 8 inch tablet that I bought from Amazon. A Kindle Fire, probably the single most common tablet outside of the almighty iPad. Um, and then I should be able to show it with clicking this button. There it is. Yep, so there I've got my cookie notice. Accept all, because that's just the kind of person I am. I'm going to up my screen brightness for myself here. You won't be able to see that. All right. Yeah, definitely some scroll jankiness here too. So 3 devices in a row with scroll jankiness. I'm definitely going to have to say there's some kind of an issue with scrolling on this site. Not enough to ruin my experience, but enough that I notice it. And I imagine many other people would notice the issues as well in this case. I still intend on hooking up my MacBook Air and testing it there too. But overall, this is loading in just fine. The top black Ubisoft bar is definitely obtrusive. But here I am to answer my own main question. Can I access the bottom of the footer? And it seems to be the answer is, once again, sometimes. I can sometimes access the bottom of the footer. But that black Ubisoft bar is striking once again. All right, I'm going to set this down for now. My physical desk is rather busy, so I'm moving some stuff aside so I have space to even put my tablet somewhere. All right, I'm going to hide that temporarily. Okay. So I guess that's my overall impressions of things so far. I guess to recap, um, I like this site. It is unobtrusive. It communicates everything well. The design is very clean. All of the assets loading in are small. There was not even a single asset loading into the site on page load that was larger than a megabyte. And even the videos were optimized to a point of being less than half a megabyte, which is fine. Videos in and of themselves are not evil. It has to do with the optimization. I would add a reduce motion button to even stop the auto-playing videos such as this. And anything else that might autoplay. And that might include this as well. Although this is unobtrusive enough that arguably a stop motion button wouldn't affect it. Or a reduce motion button. The button hover effects are lovely. I really, really like this. Really, my only issue with the site is the scrolling jankiness caused by that top Ubisoft bar that comes up from literally 1 pixel of scrolling. I guess with that done, I'm going to move on to a slightly different topic. And that is screen reader accessibility. Taking a sip of my this is actually G Fuel. I have it in a G Subs cup, but I'm actually drinking G Fuel. I'm not associated with either brand. I don't necessarily endorse them. It's just a drink I enjoy. And of course, I carry a very large water bottle with me all the time as well. I take this with me everywhere I go. Yeah, there we go. Got to remember to hydrate. It's very easy to forget to hydrate. Especially when I'm doing any kind of web dev work, I tend to get absorbed in my work so much that I forget to drink water. And that is why I carry this thing literally everywhere with me. I also do a lot of VR, and it's even easier to forget to drink water when you're inside of a VR headset. But that's neither here nor there. What I would like to do is move on to the next topic, and that is screen reader accessibility. Um, Oftentimes, screen reader accessibility on sites like this can be hit or miss. The previous site that I looked at, the Monster Hunter Wild site, did a fair job with some issues when it came to screen reader accessibility. The biggest issue that the Monster Hunter Wilds website had was that the main menu was not accessible, the hamburger menu. So and that is to say the menu that would essentially be this. Their version of that was not accessible for screen readers. I always go in mostly blind, so I don't actually know what's going to happen here. Also, I'm using a different screen reader this time. I generally use Mac OS's VoiceOver, but in the interest of testing on different devices and testing out different types of things, I am going to be using the screen reader that's built into the Chromebook, which is called Chromevox, or at least I'm pretty sure that's how that's pronounced. Chrome VOX. That is the screen reader that comes built into a Chromebook. And in this case, this is not a touchscreen Chromebook, so I'm going to be utilizing the keyboard functionality. And the way that you turn on Chromevox on a Chromebook is by doing Control Alt and then that key. I also had a technical issue last time where previously it was not recording the audio of the computer through the Elgato. I have since troubleshooted that, and I do believe I have fixed that issue, and it should properly capture the audio from my Elgato card again. I might not have a clear way of knowing until the stream is done, but it also does show the text on the top as well. So if nothing else, there's going to be that. So I'm going to turn on the screen reader here and just see what happens. Control Alt search key. No, I'm wrong. It was a Control Alt V.
Chromebox spoken feedback is ready. Open menu, button, main, game site navigation, navigation. Press search plus space to activate.
All right. So the fact that it acknowledged the menu gives me hope that the menu is accessible. So the way that macOS VoiceOver works is that there's like a VO key combination that you hold down along with using arrow keys and various other keys for commands. My first time ever in my life using Chromevox is today. So I am not an expert on Chromevox. From what I've learned from using Chromevox today, which I was briefly testing with prior to this stream, is that Chromevox's equivalent to the VO key is to hold down the search key, which is right here.
Login or create. Open menu, button, main, game site navigation, navigation. Close menu, button, main.
All right, so the menu opened.
Link, games, collapsed, button, navigate, games, expanded, button, navigation. Link, open menu, close link, games, expanded, button, link, open menu, button.
All right, so from a keyboard perspective, and perhaps this is just user error,
games.
Opening the menu worked, the sub menu that is. But for me,
to activate.
It closed the primary menu when I did that.
News, photo, more than games, photo mode, collapsed, button.
This could be user error simply because I'm not as familiar with this screen reader as I am certain other screen readers. This is literally one of my first times ever using it. That being said, it does work.
Link, open menu, button, main, open, link, Games. Assassin's Creed game. Link. Open menu.
Okay.
Button. Main.
One critique I have.
Navigation.
It does appear
Navigation.
that the screen reader is
Press
seeing
search plus
content that
space
is
to
not
activate.
visual to my eyes, which is a very common issue when it comes to things that appear and disappear on the screen. As a general principle, if something is not visible to the user, it shouldn't exist. Even if it does exist, in terms of code, even if it's really there, it shouldn't exist. And that should go for, or that is to say, as far as the user is concerned, it shouldn't exist yet, even if it does, technically. From a visual perspective, this menu does not exist and is not interactable with a mouse. That much was accounted for. However, an issue I'm noticing right up front
Games. Assassin's Creed Mirage.
is that it is reading off and listing off the
Press
menu
search plus
items
space to activate.
as if they exist. An ARIA hidden or marking it as hidden through an ARIA label would be the approach I would do on that if they're not doing that already. And then having that be one of the things that toggles back and forth when the menu is enabled. When I build out menus like that, that is the approach I tend to take, is to be sure that the appropriate ARIA labels are being toggled. And that is something you can do directly with vanilla JavaScript even, just through toggling attributes on a particular div or class or what have you. That is an approach I've taken in the past that has been effective in making sites more accessible.
Link.
This is far from a site-breaking issue because it doesn't stop you from accessing anything, but it is something that would probably confuse a vision-impaired user of this website.
Game. All 8 news. Photo. More. Discover. Help. Pre-order AC Shadows coming.
Actually, I am curious.
Link.
Did that happen only
Navigation
because I interacted with the menu, or is this going to happen when I refresh the page?
Assassin's Creed Shadows for PS5, PC. Skip to main content. Ubisoft. Link.
Huh.
Press search plus space to activate.
So I refreshed the page in the mobile, and the hamburger menu is actually not there. Interesting. I'm curious. If I resize
Search
this,
result 2 of 5. Manage accessibility features.
so like that's what I was
Press
seeing
enter to navigate
before.
section. Search result 3 of 5. Magnify
Huh,
follow
interesting. Okay, so if you
Press enter to
resize the
navigate to
page
section.
down
Search
and then
result
size
4
it
of
back
5.
up,
Chrome OS
the desktop
version.
menu does
Press
not
enter to
return.
navigate to section. Search result 5 of 5. About Chrome OS. Press enter to navigate to section. Skip Ubisoft. Play. Shop. Help. Button. Has pop up. Collapsed.
So that is
List
definitely
end.
something I would
Navigation
look into. I would imagine
search
that
plus
might
space
be a
to
media
activate.
query issue, assuming media queries are what they used for transferring between one type of menu and the other. I'm gonna potentially look into that further a little bit later in the stream.
Download Ubisoft Connect. Download
And also, of
Ubisoft
course,
Connect.
this could be
Link.
an operating system thing too. This might not be an occurrence that happens on other operating systems. A little bit later in the stream, I'm gonna disconnect my Chromebook and switch over to my MacBook Air to see if a lot of these issues are happening. But it's just something I wanted to note down that happens now. I guess with that in mind, this is the intended page load desktop experience, and I'm going to continue going through that with the screen reader and see what happens.
Search. Button. Search. 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 Type your
Okay,
search.
no problems with that search
Search.
bar. That
Button.
seems pretty much
Search.
on the up and up.
Login or create an account. Login or create an account. Button. Ubisoft WebAuth.
All right, so that created a new window.
Ubisoft login. Create email password. X twit P can't log access login address and search bar. Close button. Login or create an account.
All right, and I was able to
Button.
quickly, easily
Assassin's
close
Creed
that
Shadows
purely
for
with my
PS5,
keyboard within the
PC,
screen reader, so
Xbox
that
X
is
/S
100% okay.
Link.
I have no issues with
Games.
that.
News. Games. Link. games, news, game, link, main, game.
Okay,
games,
so I scroll
collapse,
over games,
button,
and I appreciate that the menu comes up
Press
automatically.
search plus space to activate.
But I then noticed that
News,
instead of
games,
going on the
collapse,
menus,
button,
like the sub-menu items,
photo mode,
it immediately
collapse,
just goes to the next parent item.
games, collapsed.
I wonder if I have to maybe, like,
Press search plus space to activate.
search plus space to activate.
News, games, collapsed, button. News, game, link, games.
That might be a small accessibility
button,
issue. I would have expected that drop down to allow me to access the sub-menu items by
News,
essentially moving on
collapse,
to the next
button,
item.
navigation. Press search plus space to
This could be user error because, again, I am new to this screen reader. So I'm just going to note that down in my head and come back to that when I go over the site again on a Mac OS voiceover.
News, more than game, discover, help, link, navigation end. Press search plus space to activate.
Oop.
Pre-order Assassin's video.
What was that?
Assassin's Creed Shadows for PS5, PC, Xbox X/S and more. Ubisoft US. Heading 1.
Okay, so there's a heading. There's a heading 1 that appears to be only accessible by the screen reader.
Video. Assassin's Creed
Or
Shadows
either
for
that or it's
PS5,
just
PC,
not doing the
Xbox
focus area
X/S and
right.
more.
Because I
Ubisoft
have my
US.
suspicions that the
Network panel.
H1.
Tap alert.
Hold on,
DevTools is
I'm gonna.
to right.
In the interest of performance on this $100 computer, I'm gonna turn the screen reader off for 1 second. Is this what it was reading off? I'm curious. Okay, so I think this was actually on purpose because semantically a page should have an H1. Visually speaking, it looks like that's not what they wanted, but the screen reader notices it. So I think this is actually a good thing. I think this is actually an example of them doing things in a way that is good. So at the very least, I don't think it's bad. I'm going to refresh the page again, turn the screen reader back on. Control-Alt-Z.
Chromebox spoken feedback is ready. Download, search, game. Pre-order Assassin's Creed Shadows for PS5, video. Assassin's Creed Shadows for
Because yeah, the
PS5,
screen reader
PC,
seems to
Xbox
skip over the
X/S and
Assassin's
more.
Creed Shadows
Ubisoft US.
logo
Heading
there,
1.
like the image logo. I don't think that's actually a big deal because
Video. Assassin's
this
Creed Shadows
exists.
for PS5, PC, Xbox X/S and more. Ubisoft US. Heading 1. Video.
I might have made the description of that more than just video. Technically correct, technically not wrong, technically not a problem. Video is not super descriptive though.
Assassin video.
I'm also gonna click on this again just one more time. Huh.
Video. Video.
All right, so for now, I'm gonna not pass judgments on this particular screen reader because I'm not as familiar with it.
Assassin's Creed coming
Nonetheless,
March 20th.
I'm still curious just to go through the site.
Button.
Oh, hold on.
Video.
Video.
Assassin's Creed Shadows. Coming March.
I go through this text.
Available button.
And then there's button.
Pre-order now. Button. Press search plus space to activate.
Search plus space.
Dialog.
Okay, there's
Close.
my pop-up.
Button.
And for what it's worth,
space to activate.
that pop-up was perfect in terms of screen reader and keyboard accessibility. I pressed escape and it went away. And that was exactly the way a pop-up should work. I'm actually gonna open that again.
Dialog. Close. Button. Button.
Actually, I don't even need to press escape because It correctly focused on the major element on the page or on the pop-up that would close it. So 2 thumbs up on the pop-up. Pop-ups and pop-up accessibility are hard, and they hit it out of the park with that on this website. Fantastic job implementing pop-ups. I've come across many a pop-up in my time, in my day, over the past decade or so, that has not been as accessible as that. Regardless if they chose to use a pre-existing library or if they built that themselves, it is implemented well. I like that pop-up a lot. Very good pop-up. Anyway, let's move on further down.
Now.
Hold on.
Video.
Before I go further down, I guess I just want to note the fact that it said video, which is not interactable with.
Assassin's Creed Shadow.
And then there was the text.
Available button.
And then it goes back
Press
to
search
the
plus
button.
space to activate.
I want to see if that's going to happen later too.
Pre-order now. Link.
With that said, I'm going to move.
Space to activate. Latest news. Heading to Assassin's Creed Shadows. Steam. March 14, 2020. Assassin's Creed. March 14, 2025. Assassin's Creed Shadows. Steam trailer. Watch now. Watch now. Button. Dialogue. Close. But watch now. Button. List item.
Nice.
Assassin's Creed Shadows. Launch
All right.
cinematic.
Now I'm curious about this because sliders are another area that can often be
Press
troublesome for
search plus
screen
space
readers.
to activate.
My hopes are high because the pop-up was done so well.
10, watch, link. Console, read more. Assassin's Creed Shadow, read more, link.
Okay, so visually, maybe it could be better. That being said, it is fully accessible.
Link.
That and by that I mean I can access every item of the slider.
Link.
I would have more expected to have to interact with the buttons, but the fact that every item of the slider is accessible is good enough for me to say that this is at least fine. It's not broken. So the carousel of implementation is good. It doesn't impress me as much as the pop-up implementation did, but the carousel implementation is good. I would say that this is fine. That being said, given that it didn't use the buttons, I am curious what would happen when I do choose to click on it now that I'm at the end of the slider.
Button.
All right, so
10, 2.
It does look like interacting with the buttons when you're on a screen reader breaks the slider to an extent. Honestly, my recommendation, my personal opinion, and probably what I would suggest would be to put an ARIA label of hidden on the buttons. Because A, the buttons are not necessary for a screen reader to access them. On the other hand, that could have other accessibility issues too outside of screen readers. So I don't know. The better approach might be to require the buttons, because again, and I'm going to refresh the page just to get this reset to its default.
For PS5, PC, Xbox X/S, and more. Ubisoft US. Assassin's Creed Shadows for Explore button has pop-up. Collapsed. List item. Press search plus space to activate.
Because again, when you don't see something, it essentially shouldn't exist. So for me, there are 3 slides. The button would create more slides from me for a user perspective, even if that's not what's going on in the code. That's what I would expect. And that's what I would expect from a screen reader too. I'm just going to go back to this part of the site.
Watch now.
So I do appreciate that every item in the screen in the carousel is fully screen reader accessible, and there's nothing that a screen reader user would be locked out from in any way. However, it is a little bit confusing, the idea that the button is there but is not used, and that when or rather if a screen reader user chooses to interact with the button,
press search plus space to activate.
A, it just says button without any more context, and B, if I do choose to interact with that, the functionality is a little bit funky. So I'll say that it's fine. I don't think there's any urgent need to update this, but I would either make the buttons not screen reader accessible so that a screen reader would bypass them, or I would make the buttons a requirement to move on to the next content in the slider. With that said, I think this slider works well enough that there isn't specifically a problem or an issue with it.
Button. All news. Link. Button.
Just for fun. I'm gonna
press search plus space to activate.
Because yeah, like this. I think the slider should work like this on a screen reader.
Link.
But this is also fine. The issue is that it seems to have the two approaches conflicting with each other and essentially breaking each other.
All news.
So I guess my real advice from a screen reader perspective, have the screen reader do one or the other. Either approach is fine, but they seem to conflict in the case that the buttons are interacted with. That's my commentary there. Well implemented, more improvements could be made.
A new creed rises. Heading. Live the intertwined stories of Naoi and explore feudal Japan. Discover the and watch the world. Explore. Become as the quick-witted. Become a legend.
Yep, and these are pretty straightforward.
Learn more about combat. Learn more about. Become a shinobi assassin. Heading 2.
I do appreciate that it's centering on the text and that the design elements are just that, design element. Because at least on this screen reader, I'm going to go back to the Monster Hunter Wilds website.
Monster Hunter Wilds Capcom Monster Hunter
to demonstrate. There were some design elements that I did notice were being read out as design elements a little bit further down the page.
Bowian image.
Like right there. These 4 circles are design elements.
Bowian image.
As far as the user is concerned, these are just a part of the background image, more or less.
Bowian image.
And that's something you want to be conscious of.
Image.
Anyway, I'm going to close this site because it's a proven resource hog.
Assassin's Creed Shadows for PS5.
I appreciate on this site that it is not confusing design elements for content that a screen reader should read out. It's just going straight to the content exactly the way that a screen reader should.
Learn more. Learn. Play at your. You decide. Image. NAOE. Image. Press search plus space to activate.
What happens if I activate the image? Okay, so it just says that, I guess.
NAOE. Heading 2. Image.
So I might
space to activate.
Hold on. I'm gonna disable this again and turn on DevTools because I want to see how that image markup looks and why it's just saying image. Because it should say the character's name. I assume I might be mispronouncing their name. Naoi maybe is how that's supposed to be pronounced. I will admit I'm not super involved in the Assassin's Creed franchise of games. I played a few of them. I think this one looks pretty interesting. I'm hoping it turns out good. But it does appear that the reason why it says that is because the alt text is empty. So I'm interested. because this is content. I guess for context of why you would see an alt-empt or an empty alt tag. An empty alt tag is not bad. That is valid HTML. You are allowed to do that. But what that communicates to things like screen readers is that it shouldn't be seen. Essentially, like as I was saying above, if you want there to be an element that isn't a background or a design, or that isn't a background, but it should be seen like it, so a screen reader would skip over it, you might put alt equals nothing over it, which is completely valid HTML. And in some cases, is exactly what you want. I don't think that's exactly what we want here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this character's name. NAOE, and then I'm going to do the same thing for the other image too. And I'm interested what is now going to happen with these two images. So I'm gonna do Control Alt V to turn turn Chromevox back on.
Feedback is ready.
I'm gonna just mass go through the site super fast just to get back to that part of it. Forgive my button mashing. I'm sure there's a better way, but this is what I'm gonna do for now.
Learn more about become as the charismatic. Learn more about information is your travel the world, explore, learn more, play it your. You decide what NAOE image. NAOE heading to NAOE image.
Yeah, you see, that's what I would advise. In some cases, an empty alt tag is exactly what you want, but I feel like these two images are actually more accessible if they have proper alt tags. Because they are content that the screen reader is intended, or at least ostensibly intended to go over. The issue is that when they did so initially, it just said image, which didn't fairly describe it. Whereas at least in this case, it says what the character's name is, which is a fair description of the image because this is an image of the character.
Trained as a shinobi assassin from Iga province, Naoi sets out to travel through Yasuki image. Yasuki image.
Because yeah, kind of like how it says Yasuki at first and then image, it was just saying image before. Which for a screen reader user would be a little bit confusing. And that's where adding proper alt text is very important. It might not matter so much to the average user of a site with perfect vision, such maybe not even perfect vision because my vision isn't perfect necessarily, but you know what I mean. Like for a vision user that would be using full keyboard and mouse, that might not matter as much. It's a very easy oversight. But these are two examples of images that I would argue should have alt text and would strongly benefit screen reader users for having it.
After pre-order for 10 plus hours, pre-order any edition, pre-order, discover the digital, pre-order for 10 plus hours of extra content.
Yeah, and I am interested because it seems like
press search.
I'm assuming they use the same principle of having an empty alt tag so that image wouldn't be screen reader accessible, and perhaps they considered that more of a design thing than anything else. Which, if that's their opinion, is completely fine. I don't think that's wrong.
Discover the digital deluxe edition. Get more with the deluxe. Pre-order now. Watch. Discover. Pre-order for 10 plus hours of extra content. Pre-order any edition now.
Especially because the text content the screen reader does go over does adequately explain what this image is in the first place. So it's not like you're missing out on content. So
pre-order.
I think this is an example of an image where having the empty alt text is perfectly fine, if not the optimal decision to make. That is not my opinion of these two images, where I do believe having the alt text is the more accessible route to take here.
Discover the digital Get pre-order now. Watch trailer. Pre-order now. Watch trailer. Discover Assassin's Creed. Get the most premium offer for Assassin's Creed. Learn more. Link. The complete official guide. Get ready to explore. Learn more. Link. Visit other Assassin's Creed channels. Heading to Twitter icon. Link. Facebook icon. Twitch icon. Twitter icon.
Twitter
link.
icon. I love how
Search
nobody
plus
is
space
calling
to
this site
activate.
X. Like, this isn't even the right logo, but at the same time, this is the logo people recognize. So, kudos to Ubisoft. Sticking to their guns, using the superior logo.
Facebook, Twitch icon, Instagram, YouTube icon. Link. Press search plus space. YouTube icon. Link.
Why is the TikTok
Press
one the
search
only
plus
one that
space
just says
tag.
link?
Link. Link.
Or
Link,
rather,
link,
the last
link,
three, TikTok,
link,
Twitter, and
link,
Discord.
link. YouTube icon. Link. Press search plus space to activate.
All right, I'm so close to the end of the screen
English.
reader that I'm going to
Button.
revisit that in like a second.
Store. You,
I just want to go through the
do not
footer.
sell. Limit you. Set cook. Studios. Heading. Ubisoft. Ubisoft. Play.
Yep, as I expected, this is
Copyright.
pretty standard.
ESRB. Link. Asset. Skip to main. Mac OS. Ubisoft. Steam. Epic. Intel. Link.
When I go over this
Press
later with
search plus
voiceover, I
space
want to
to
see if the menu here
English. Button.
is a little
Press
more
search plus
accessible.
space to activate. English. Button.
Anyway, I'm going to be
Press-
turning off Chromevox for now because I want to open the dev tools and take a quick little peek at what is going on with these social icons and why all of them except the last three had a proper description. So let's see, the YouTube one, alt YouTube icon. All right, so it looks like they're using images and not SVGs, perfectly fine. Most sites would, yep, yeah, and then this has an empty alt text. So I think the only thing that would need to be done is TikTok. Or wait, hold on. That's not Twitter. That's Discord. Discord. Or wait, no. It's Reddit. Discord is the next one. I'm getting confused. So many social platforms. And then finally, last but not least, all right. And just for the sake of being super pedantic, I am going to turn this on again. Or hold on. Control Alt Z.
Chromebox spoken
Gotta remember
feedback
that.
is ready.
I know it's super pedantic, but I'm going to button mash my way through this entire site once again. Just because I want to see if that did the trick or not.
Protect. Link. Skill. Play at your. You did. Now. And. Pre-order it. Discover the. Twitter icon.
All right, here we are.
Facebook icon. Twitch icon. Instagram icon. YouTube icon. TikTok. Reddit. Discord. Link.
Yeah, that's literally it. So a small oversight.
To activate.
Add the alt text to those last three images as well. Otherwise, a screen reader user will not know what they are. So, okay, now I'm turning Chromevox off for the last time this stream. I guess overall, my impressions of this are actually very positive. I like this quite a lot as a landing page for this. I think it's far more effective, far more accessible, and much more informationally informative than the Monster Hunter Wild site was. My biggest complaint remains to be that top bar that seems to have some scrolling jankiness, particularly on mobile platforms. All right, I've been going for about an hour and a half now. Um, I am going to switch over to my MacBook Air. So, uh, if I had thought this out a little bit more, I'd have more of a way to entertain you while I do this. But at least I have the MacBook right here. So, first off, I'm going to get to the correct site. Wait. Um, it does appear that I was playing audio of one of my previous streams on my MacBook Air. I apologize if you heard that. Um, anyhow, uh, I'm gonna, yeah, there's various stuff I would like to just quickly close on this computer before I live stream it, like my password manager, for instance, and other various things. And I'm going to open up Google Chrome if it offers to be the default browser. I'm going to say no, because on this computer, which is the computer I use quite a lot, I choose Firefox as a default browser. Even amidst the current controversies, Firefox is what I know. Um, all right, I have this hooked up here, so I should just be able to unplug my Elgato. Um, put this over here, shift my MacBook into view, and plug her in. There it is. Let's get this centered so the keyboard is easier to see. Hold on. Let's see. What do I want to show on Elgato? Um, yeah, entire screen. Start mirroring. All right, looks like that's good to go. Did they change the aspect ratio of MacBooks? Because on my last MacBook, it was definitely something closer to 16 by 10. Um, oh, wait, actually, I think what's happening is that it's using the Elgato's uh, profile. I would much rather use Mac OS's one. Um, hold on, I'm going to actually switch to the view of just me and go back to my vacation home while I quickly get this worked out. Um, let's see. Yeah, I'm just messing with the display settings so that because yeah, I had this worked out on my last Mac. I could definitely make the MacBook aspect ratio the one that is being used, um, or rather, adjust what's being mirrored. I think what's going on right now is that it's mirroring in the wrong direction. Hmm. I'm gonna work on this for like another second. If I can't figure it out, I'll fix it before the next stream and just deal with the Elgato's aspect ratio for now. Uh, there we go. Mirror for built-in display. All right, I think I can go back to. Yeah, there we go. That's the aspect ratio I'm a little more used to seeing on MacBooks. So yeah, it was basically mirroring in the wrong direction. Um, but it is fixed now. So because I like sticking with the aspect ratio of the computer, and it looks like you guys are getting a view of all my folders. Those no starch book books are from Humble Bundle. I am a big fan of that particular book publisher. I own multiple physical books from them. I own dozens of digital books from them. I am debating buying the newest bundle because I know I probably won't get around to reading any of them for at least a year because I'm way behind on my no starch books studying. But at the same time, like it it is a promotion promoting the EFF. I guess if you're into technical books, just FYI, there is as of this stream a promotion going on now with No Starch Press, and their books are awesome and I love them. Anywho, website time. Oh, also go back to green screen mode time so that my screen can be seen. Accept all the cookies because that's just how I roll. And now I'm gonna go through the site on this computer, which is very, very, very powerful and awesome. And I'm gonna see. Right. I did want to consider the scrolling on the MacBook because the trackpad on the MacBook Air is substantially nicer than the trackpad on the $120 Chromebook. Yeah, for me, this feels very, very nice. So I guess on one hand, I can chalk up a lot of the scrolling issues I was having, at least insofar as laptop trackpad usage goes, to the fact that the trackpad on the Chromebook is not great. But at the same time, I'm also of the opinion that websites and software should be built for the technology that people use and not necessarily the best technology on the market, which is not what everyone uses. That is to say, there are probably a lot more people buying $120 Chromebooks. They get the job done, versus I paid I paid $1,000 for this computer. So some people can afford just $1,000 computer on a whim if they want to. There's many people that do that, but that's not everyone. Especially in the student market and younger people, Chromebooks are becoming way more popular because of their lower cost and the fact that they do work and they function just fine. Even if their trackpads aren't as premium as what you would see on a newer Apple computer. And especially because, as mentioned earlier, the scrolling jankiness did persist on the mobile devices I tested too, which was a mid to low end Android phone and a mid to low end Android tablet, that being the Kindle Fire. So I'm still of the opinion 1 pixel should be increased to like 5 or 10 pixels before that black bar shows up again. With that said, I'm interested in going over with voiceover. Let me just the keyboard shortcut for enabling voiceover. Oh wait, no, I remembered. It's Command F5, right? Yes. Did did it work? Command F5. I might have pressed. Oh, I used the wrong button. Duh. User error. Use voiceover is what I want. Hmm. And I am not getting audio output from this. Um. Anyway, maybe if I adjust audio settings somewhere. Um. Okay, so yeah, it's definitely an audio issue. I would like the audio to route through the Elgato, which it looks like I can do just by doing that.
Line LinkedIn, Wi-Fi,
There we go.
winner
I
underscore
got it to work.
5G,
It's all good.
selected, Chrome, assassin, heading, coming mark, head, end, link, games, main, end of, frames, login, end of,
I just wanted to go through this
banner.
screen reader because I'm a
You are
little bit more
currently on a
familiar with
banner,
it.
login, group, frame 0, end of, main. You are currently on a main, in, game side link, Assassin's Creed, navigation. You are currently in a games, collapsed, link, new, link, a navigation, games, interact with, games, games. Stop interacting with the title of button, link, a navigation, games, link, navigation, games, collapsed, link, news, games, link, games,
Right.
collapsed,
So
button.
I'm having the
You are
exact same
currently on a
issue
button.
with
To click
macOS
this button,
VoiceOver as I was
press
here,
Control, Option,
that it
space.
will auto-open the submenu, but I'm having a hard time figuring out how to access any of these items.
Link, leaving frame, log, leaving games, collapsed, button, navigation, link, Assassin's Creed. You are, navigation. You are currently in games, link, navigation, games, link, new, photo mode, link, disk, link, game side, link, navigation, games, collapsed, button.
Yeah, let's
You
get
are
my mouse
currently
out of
on a
there.
button. To click this button, press link, photo mode, collapsed, link, game side, link, navigation, games, collapsed, button.
Because on a lot of similar menus I've
To
built,
click this button, press Control, Option,
it would just
space.
automatically go on to the next one, where semantically speaking, there would be a button of some kind, or rather a link of some kind that might act as a button inside a UL, or sorry, inside a list item. So like games would be a list item. There would be some kind of interactable element, and then there would be another UL LI, and that sub UL LI is what this submenu would be. And simply because the HTML is laid out in that way, it would just work. I actually recently built out a menu like this at my job. Um,
Voiceover off.
I would like to go just take a look at the dev tool. Function F12. Yeah, I'm gonna simulate a 1080p display. There we go. Then I'm gonna refresh. I guess this is another case where simulating is not always the same as real hardware. It does not want to show the desktop version of the menu. You know, the Elgato might have actually had a point where it was doing the aspect ratio if I want to have the console up at the same time as the site. So yeah, I'm actually going to go into the settings again and back to displays. Oh, I broke something. Hold on. It'll be fixed in just a second. Mirror the Elgato. There we go. So yeah, just to have that wider aspect ratio. Let's see, all right, so yeah, now I can do what I want to do. All right, I think in future streams, I'm just gonna accept the 16:9 aspect ratio, even though that's not the native display of a Mac. But anyway, I can now look into the code of how this is structured. All right, so they are not using ULLI, the way that most websites I've built would do, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Divs are versatile in the way that if they have the proper markup, you can make it basically the same thing as that. But structurally, this is a ULLI. Yeah, then they have a button, and let's see, is this working by, I'm guessing hovering or focusing? Either the button or the parent. All right, so it looks like they're only accounting for hovering here. You know what? I'm actually just curious. I'm just going to change this. I'm just going to change the markup of their site just because I want to know what's going to happen. Or, hold on. No, this is supposed to be a list item. This is an unordered list. Games is a list item. Obviously, some things visually are going to break, but I'm more interested what's going to happen from a screen reader perspective. So then inside that, there's the button I was talking about that is often present. And then there's a list item. Although this shouldn't be a list item. UL. And every one of these should be surrounded by an LI. I'm mostly just doing this out of curiosity. I just want to see what the screen reader is going to do if I change the markup. I'm going to delete 3, 4, 5 links and just copy this 5 times. One, two, three, four, 5. All right, and I'm just curious what's going to happen if I screen reader over this. Obviously, the CSS was not designed around these being ULLIs. More adjustments would need to be made to accommodate for that, which I'm not going to do right now, given that nothing I'm doing is permanent, obviously. Command F5.
Welcome to VoiceOver. VoiceOver speaks description.
VoiceOver on Chrome. Assassin. New tab. Search toolbar. Assassin's Creed Shadow banner. Link. Link. Image. Global. End of. Login. Frames. End of. Main. Game site. Link. Navigation. List 1 games. List 0. Link. News. List 0 items. Games. Collapsed. Button. You are currently on list 0 items. Link. List 0 games. Collapsed. List 0 items. Level 2. You are currently.
Okay, I think my markup is a little bit wrong, so let me adjust that.
Universal access control.
Oop, I pressed the wrong thing.
Chrome. Assassin's Creed. VoiceOver off.
Anyway, UL. So right, so there's the nav. Inside the nav, there's the unordered list. And ideally, all of these would be, or at least the ones where, actually, yes, everything inside the UL should be an LI. And then there would either be an A tag, or if it has children, it would then be something a little more complicated like this. But that shouldn't matter yet. So let's see. So I have the UL, LI, and then the submenu was also a UL, but it was but then it said that there was no list items inside here. I don't know. I might be getting down a rabbit hole of semantics that might be getting more complicated than it's worth for right now. But I'm going to explore this at least for a bit. I really want this menu to be as easily accessible as I've seen drop downs be on other sites. Well, of course, these are copies of each other, so there's only a point in looking at one of them. Hmm. So yeah, it looks like, as expected, it is a button. Hmm. All right, I might be getting confused. I'm going to refresh and start over with changing this markup because I'm completely convinced that this issue is purely a markup issue, or at least that's kind of what I'm thinking now. So you have nav, you have a div that's basically a UL, an unordered list. In my opinion, it should be. That would be more semantic. It would be more specific than just using a div. You have a list item, which would be this, among other list items. And I guess just for the heck of it, I might get rid of the other ones in case they were causing issues. Right. So right now we're at a basic UL LI structure, completely standard. And there was a button, and then inside the LI, I would put another unordered list to contain the submenu items. And each submenu item would ideally be an LI. LI, and then the menu item. And then I'm going to delete these. Make sure there's a few of them there. All right, like this is pretty much the most straightforward that the markup could possibly be for something like this. But I'm confused, why is it still not keyboard accessible? Because it wasn't in the first place, and that's what I'm trying to figure out here. Because like it'll open automatically, but it doesn't work. Oh, I wonder if it's the ARIA hidden. I'm just gonna change that on a couple of them and see what happens. Nope, that didn't seem to do the trick. Maybe is VoiceOver going to treat this
Welcome to
any differently
VoiceOver.
now?
VoiceOver.
Oh, I think I pressed the wrong button again.
Welcome to VoiceOver.
Voice nav list 1 games, list 5 visited, link, list 5 games, collapse.
Okay,
button.
so this
You
is
are
this is
currently on
kind
the
of
button.
working now
To click this button,
on
press Control,
a
Option,
screen reader
space.
anyway.
List 1 item. Link, navigate, list 1 item.
So
You
when
are
I get to the
currently in a
UL,
list.
there is only one list item right now because I deleted the rest, so that is correct.
Games, collapsed, button. You are currently on a button. List 5 items, level 2. You are currently in a list.
And when I get to the sub UL, it correctly lists out 5 items.
Visited, link, visited, end of list. You are visited,
Yeah, and then
link,
the two that
Assassin's
I
Creed
changed
Shadows,
the
1 of
ARIA
5.
label of from.
You are currently on a link. To click this link, press
So
Control,
I am going to
Option,
refresh
space.
the page again. I'm not convinced
You
this
are
strictly
currently on the
needs to be
main,
a ULLI.
inside of
I
web
was mostly
content,
doing that
link,
just because that is
gameside
what I've
navigation,
seen and built more
link,
commonly.
Object replacement character. You are currently on a group. To interact with items
Oop,
in this group,
function,
less than
well,
body class equals nxa and us data root equals game underscore Assassin's Creed underscore
also
shadows data react helmet voiceover off.
voiceover off for now, just for now. I just want to observe what happens to the code as I interact with the menu as it is. So I notice ARIA expanded on the button stays ARIA expanded false even when ARIA expanded is true. From an accessibility standpoint, that is certainly something I would look into. I'm actually a little lost on this because there's a few things that should be changing. Like, again, I'm actually pretty convinced the ARIA hidden true is what's doing this. So I think let's just take these A tags and make them ARIA hidden false so that that's not happening anymore. Because like on one hand, as an initial state, I think this would be the correct approach because that would hide it from screen readers until it's supposed to exist. Because like as I've mentioned, in terms of concept, if something isn't visible, it shouldn't exist as far as the user is concerned, and that holds true for screen readers. So having ARIA hidden true on page load before the sub menu is shown to the user in any way would be correct. I think in this case, it might have been causing issues. So now that I changed that, I'm going to turn VoiceOver back on.
Welcome to VoiceOver.
VoiceOver on Chrome. A new tab. Search tab. Tool. Assassin's Creed chat banner. Link. Main list. Play. End of. Link. Search. End of. Login. Frame. End of. Main. Games. Link. Navigation. Games. Collapse. Visited. Link. Visit. Games. Collapsed. Button.
Okay, so
You are
yes,
currently
the
on
ARIA
button.
label is
To
why
click
it's
this
not
button,
working.
Press Control. Option. Space. VoiceOver
I think
off.
I can make this even a little more accessible, because obviously you want the menu to stay up when you're inside of a submenu. And normally to do that, because like kind of like how pretending that this is a UL because it kind of is acting as one. If you hover over this, it does it. But there is also a property, two properties, focused and yeah, and focus within. And that's one of the ways I often do this. So let's say I don't know. I'm just going to add a stupid class name here so it's unique. And then I'm just going to go to the inspector style sheet here. All right. Unique class 1, 2, 3. So I would add these in addition to hover. So like anywhere you add hover, it would be good to add either and or focused and focus within. So of course there's going to be JavaScript helping to control this too. Or actually, what I might do is unique class, because it looks like that it is, in theory, acting with an active class. And I think focus within is what we want here anyway. So then I would normally target the UL, which in this case, I'll just name that unique class inner. So, or actually, wait, that might not even be necessary. Focus within might be enough. Or no, focus within and then unique class 2. I don't know if they're using display block here or not, but so the idea is that if something within unique class 1, 2, 3 dot class active is focus within, and then the child class, it'll target the child class. In this case, I called it unique class inner, and make it display block. Doesn't do much for keyboard accessibility. Of course, there's probably an enormous amount of JavaScript on this site too, but in principle, this is something that should make it a little nicer.
VoiceOver on phone. Search to Assassin's Creed banner. Link. Navigate games. Visited. Link. Visit games. Collapse.
Okay,
button.
So that didn't quite work out.
You are currently on a button. To click this button, press Control Option. Space.
I am approaching 2 hours, which is usually about how long I stream for. And it's getting pretty close to when I'd want to start preparing dinner, so I don't know how much I'm going to stream longer here. I might end up doing another stream on this site. Because as I mentioned, I wanted to also cover their store page and the various other games that might be on this Ubisoft multi-site, I suppose you could call it. I'm not 100% sure why this menu isn't as accessible as it could be.
Visited. Link. Visited. Link. Assassin's Creed Shadows. Link. Assassin's Creed Nexus VR.
I made it more accessible than it was.
Click this link.
Because if I refresh the page and get rid of everything I just did.
Currently on a main game navigation games. Link. New link. Navigate games.
It literally just skips by them.
You are currently on a button.
I did succeed on this stream in making this menu more accessible than it was. I have not yet succeeded in making it as accessible as I would like it to be. And I don't want to give up on it until I can figure out exactly why. I'm probably going to be ending the stream here and continuing again shortly, probably within the next few days, to have a part 2 stream on this site. And that's one of the things I'm going to look into. Is also my I think. Oh God, how long has that been disabled for? My keyboard camera isn't working. Uh, another thing I'm going to need to troubleshoot. Because yeah, I am using an old iPhone for this particular screen. I wonder if it just gets too warm. I think that's the issue. I think it might just be getting too warm. Because yeah, I kind of have it working again here when I unplugged and replugged it, but I might I might consider changing that. I'm gonna need to go back through the VOD and see how long that was frozen for, because that would be disappointing if that was frozen the entire stream. But yeah, so I guess to summarize, good site. Most of it is very accessible. I have some concerns with the top black Ubisoft bar and scrolling on certain devices, particularly on devices that have less excellent trackpads than what the MacBook Air has, and as well on mobile devices. I had some accessibility concerns in the footer with mobile devices where the bottom most menu item was not accessible. And the biggest thing, which is probably the very first thing I'm going to start looking at when I stream next, is this menu is not accessible. Not for keyboard. It's not for anything. You basically have to be using a mouse or a trackpad for this to be easy to work with. And actually, before I end, is that going to be the case? Hold on. Come on. Why is it? There we go. Because like where they show up, is that going to be the case for the top bar too? Because I just realized these are also drop downs. Yeah, these are buttons and drop downs, so it should be safe to. Yeah, those work exactly how I would expect them to when using keyboard and not just a mouse. In this case, I'm not even using the screen reader. I'm just using keyboard all by itself, which many users do. That is something to keep in mind. Not everybody is capable of using trackpads and mice. Some people are fully reliant on the keyboard and keyboard alone. So I find it interesting that these drop downs work how I would expect. And these half work how I would expect. Up to this point, this is exactly what I would want to happen, where it opens up the menu. But if I were to press tab again to move on to the next thing, I would have assumed that the next focus area would have been the submenus. But it's not. And I'm having a hard time figuring out why. I'm guessing there's something up with the JavaScript. And that is going to be the next thing I look into. But for now, I'm back in my nice vacation home on the beach. Which is ironic because, as I mentioned, I do live near an actual real beach, and I could and might actually visit the beach because the weather has been quite nice near me in Chicago, which I might be doxing myself even more. I live in Chicago, if you weren't able to tell from the outfit that I chose to wear today. Uh, but yeah, that's going to be the end of the stream for today. I'm going to call it a day for today. I'm feeling pretty much ready to start preparing dinner, maybe getting a little exercise in. Overall, I think this was a pretty good stream. I like the site, an improvement from the Monster Hunter Wilds site. I appreciate Ubisoft's approach to web design. I think there's a lot more positive than negative going on here, and the negative is stuff that I'm convinced can be fixed easily. So, for those of you who chose to tune in, thank you very much. I greatly appreciate it. For those who watch the VODs, I greatly appreciate that as well. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.